Yeah, so I'm really excited to have both of your perspectives here. Like Matt said, not being based in these communities that we're focusing on, but you're doing work to help accelerate these communities. So as mentioned, Jesse oversees Grow with Google, Kate oversees Microsoft's TechSpark. Both of these programs are focused on helping communities across the US and various stakeholders within those communities adapt to the changing economy, but in different ways, which we'll get into. So the first thing I wanted to ask you both, when we talk about how big tech companies can invest in these communities across the US, there's tons of different ways you can go about that. So I'd like to hear more, tell the audience what your program focuses on and why you decided to structure it like that. So Kate, we'll start with you.
Sure, thanks. And firstly, it's a pleasure to be here, Anna, speaking with you and with Jesse. So for us, it really started after the election in 2016, and it became clear that there were people in the US and people who were living outside of the major metropolitan hubs who had a really strong voice and perhaps felt like they were not being heard. It was a real wake-up call. People who felt like they weren't getting the same opportunity as people that do live in the major metropolitan hubs. And if you overlay that with the growing sentiment at the time that many of us heard, that the tech sector had not only been insensitive to the problem, but we'd been contributing to it. And a growing sense that we've heard about this morning that AI was, maybe going to automate people's jobs out of existence. And we thought about all of that against the mission of Microsoft, which is to empower every person and organisation on the planet. And we felt like we had a responsibility to try and address these issues. And so we architected the Microsoft TechSpark program. So it's an initiative, we launched it in October last year, and it's an initiative all about fostering the economy, the local economy and job creation in 6 regions. And we're doing that by working very closely with the local communities and partnering with local partners through 5 key pillars: bringing broadband access to more people, bringing digital skills and computer science education to more kids. We're thinking about career pathways efforts. So how can we help people translate the skills that they have today into the jobs of tomorrow? Continuing to partner with non-profits, and then also we're really interested in digital transformation initiatives. So working with both startups and existing companies on their digital transformation journey.
Yeah, and so before we get to you, Jesse, I think it's interesting to note both of these programs were started in October. So first of all, if there's any secret communication going on between Google and Microsoft, VentureBeat wants to know about it. But I'd like to hear more, what prompted Google to start Grow with Google? Was it some of the same sentiments that Kate mentioned?
Sure. And first of all, thank you so much for having us here today. It's great to be talking about this. So yeah, very similar to Kate's story about Microsoft. I think at Google, we've always believed that technology can be this powerful force that can help people grow and learn and succeed. And I think we also recognize that we're in this time of when technology is sort of bringing profound technological change and economic change. And we wanted to make sure that the opportunities that technology is bringing were getting to everybody. And so we started Grow with Google. It is an initiative that brings free tools and training and events to Americans all across the country. We've got a bunch of different programs within Grow, and the way that we like to think of them is as programs that can help you prepare for work, find work, or grow your business. And we can talk a little bit more about some of the specifics, but it's really about opportunity for everyone. That's at the heart of it.
Yeah. So first, I'd like to get back to Kate for a second. As you mentioned, what's interesting about Microsoft TechSpark is you are investing in these 5 pillars you mentioned: rural broadband, career pathways, but you're only focusing on 6 communities. So why did you decide to focus only on those 6, and why did you choose some of the ones you did?
We felt like we had the best opportunity to learn learn the most if we actually focused on, a small number of communities. So we chose 6. We didn't want a peanut butter approach initially because we, have a lot to learn. We chose the locations for very different reasons, actually. In 4 of the locations, we have a Microsoft presence. So in Washington, Wyoming, and Wisconsin, we have a data center presence, and so we wanted to build on that. And likewise, in Fargo, North Dakota, we've actually got a pretty sizable presence there with the inside sales team. We have about 900 FTEs. So we wanted to build on that. In Wisconsin, it was really different. Wisconsin, the ecosystem seemed really ripe for what we wanted to do with TechSpark. There were industries that are really ripe for innovation, really strong collaboration between academic institutions and local business. And we also had the beginnings of some strong local partnerships that we wanted to build on. And for the 6th state, we chose Texas, and in part because of the large Hispanic population, and we felt like we had an opportunity to learn about how we may need to adapt our programs. And we're also interested in learning more about Fort Bliss from a career pathways perspective. It's one of the largest military bases in the US.
Yeah, so, since both of your programs are focused on job skills that you'll need for people to really have a career pathway and, succeed in this changing economy, what skills specifically are you focused on helping train people to obtain?
So we're focused on a range. I'll just give you a couple of examples. One thing that we know is critically important are just digital basics, digital literacy. Every job today requires some form of digital literacy, and kids are graduating from high school without that. So we have a program called Applied Digital Skills, which we piloted last school year and rolled out at the beginning of this school year. We built it in conjunction with a couple of hundred teachers across 38 different states. It's earned the ISTE seal of alignment and has also been aligned with state standards. And the basic premise behind Applied Digital Skills is digital literacy through project-based learning. So it's a video-based curriculum. It's available online for free. Now that we've launched it, it's being used by thousands of teachers in every state in the United States. And you learn how to use spreadsheets and how to make presentations by doing stuff that's also teaching you life skills. So one of my favorite units is the unit where you have to research a cell phone plan. And that's pretty interesting to high school kids these days. And in the process of doing that, you learn about spreadsheets and budgeting and all this other stuff. And so that's one really important area that we've been focused on.
Yeah, as an aside, Mark Murrow, who was up here earlier, that's something that we've talked about, and there's an article up on VentureBeat if anyone wants to go read it. But his research into the digitalization of jobs, he has found that especially, really every job is becoming a digital job, but it's not necessarily that learning to code is important, but also that students need to know how to use these basics like Microsoft Excel and Slack to really succeed in those jobs.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And if I could just add to that, for our digital skills and computer science education pillar, similar to what Jessie said, we're really focused on expanding actually what's been our signature program for many years, TEALS, Technology Education and Literacy Skills Program, kind of rolls off the tongue. Mm-hmm. But the way that works is it's really about bringing in a computer science teacher who will team teach with a maths or a science teacher, currently in the school, and over time, they will learn to be the computer science teacher. Because what we're finding is many of these, high schools, they want to offer computer science education to their kids, but they just don't currently have the resources to do it. So TEALS is currently in 348 schools in the US, and I think there's 1,100 volunteers from over 500 companies, and has currently reached 37,000 students. So with TechSpark, we are asking the TEAL sits in the Microsoft Philanthropies team, and we're really asking them to focus some of their efforts specifically on these 6 locations.
Yeah. And then another aspect when we talk about tech education is postgraduate or technical education. So Jessie with Grow with Google, you guys, in January, I believe, launched a IT certificate course on Coursera, so training people to become entry-level entry-level IT support roles. So can you talk a little bit about that program and what kind of interest you've seen in it so far?
Yeah, absolutely. So at Google, we actually had a problem, which is that we couldn't find talent to fill our own IT pipeline. So the folks that worked at TechStop, which is what we refer to as our help desks, said, I think we're going about this the wrong way. And we had some hunches that maybe IT support wasn't something that you needed a 4-year college degree for. And so we ran a pilot in partnership with a nonprofit called Year Up within Google to see if we could bring non-traditional talent into Google through our IT residency program, and working with Year Up through a series of internships and scholarship programs. And we learned that IT is very teachable, and that indeed you do not need a 4-year college degree to succeed in this field. And so we took the training course that we had piloted with Year Up and built it out and launched it in January on Coursera. It's an 8 to 12-month course that takes you from beginner to entry-level job ready in that time period. And we have seen an overwhelming response. There's almost 20,000 folks have enrolled. It was, I think, the largest first day launch Coursera has ever seen on their platform. And what we're really excited about is that there's this curriculum out there, but we've also been talking to a lot of other big companies, because Google's not the only one that needs great IT talent. Everybody does this these days. So we have built a hiring consortium that includes Walmart. I don't know if the Walmart folks are still here, Bank of America, PNC Bank, and a bunch of other companies. Kate will be talking to you later about joining the consortium. And the folks that complete the program can opt to have their information shared with these companies who are looking for great IT talent. So there's that pathway to jobs there, which is obviously so important. So we're very excited about what we've seen from the IT cert so far.
And then Kate, with Microsoft, are there any skills specifically you're looking at as really ripe for this pathway approach?
Not so much. It's probably a little bit different in that we're not looking at this initiative sort of for Microsoft roles. We're really looking at how we can help spark jobs in these communities and across different industries. It really depends. In each of the 6 locations, there's such different industries, and they're also very different. We have from 500 people in Boynton, Virginia, to almost 1 million in El Paso, and sort of everything in between. So we've just hired somebody to lead the Career Pathways program, and so he's very focused on learning a lot more about these communities and what's needed.
Yeah, important programs. And then Jesse, Grow with Google, is also visiting different cities across the country, hours, less than that.
Heading to Lansing.
So I'm curious, what kind of reaction have you gotten from these different communities you visited? There has been talk of this big tech backlash. Have you seen that in the cities that you visited?
We have the Grow with Google tour, which really is our chance to bring the Grow with Google programs to local communities, introduce them to community organizations, to reach job seekers, teachers, and small businesses. And we've been warmly embraced by the communities that we've gone into. They're excited. They're excited to learn about with a listening ear, and really tried to go to places that are excited for Google to be there, and really have an appetite for these sorts of programs. We're really excited to be coming to Lansing. We're partnering with like 20-something community organizations. So I think we haven't experienced, we're reading about it in the papers for sure, but and experiencing it in other ways, but we've been warmly welcomed in the communities that we've taken the Grow with Google tour to.
Yeah.
I would second that as well from the Microsoft TechSpark perspective. One of the early learnings we had actually was just the reaction that we had from our own employee base, We had so many people reaching out to us asking how they could help with these initiatives, but then externally as well. And what we did straight off the bat, we thought it was really important to have a local community engagement manager hired in each of the 6 locations. So someone who was already really well connected with key stakeholders to sort of be our ambassador for the Microsoft TechSpark program, and be the eyes and ears on the ground, to provide us with fast feedback about what are the local issues and what's working and what isn't working, and what programs would actually have the most impact in those locations. So it's been a great reception so far.
Yeah. And in the communities you two have visited, given that you both live on the coast, I'm curious, what has stood out to you about some of the communities you visited? Any ones where there was like a stronger tech community, or they kind of had more progress than you were expecting?
I will call out Wisconsin. There's actually many examples, but I'll call out Wisconsin. They have a really particularly innovative ecosystem, and that really struck us. And one of the things that we've done there is our signature project in Wisconsin. We have entered into a partnership with the Green Bay Packers. I was saying earlier that we want to have local partnerships, and we felt like in that region you couldn't get a better partner than the Green Bay Packers. So we've invested $5 million, as have they, to create a technology and innovation centre. And what we want to do with that, this really firmly aligns with the digital transformation pillar. We want to work with new companies, startups, as they're growing their business, but also existing companies. So companies that might be in traditional lines of business that are interested in undergoing, their own digital transformation, and helping think about what kind of program would help them in their journey. So I think to answer your question, what really struck us as we were looking at all of that was people understand digital transformation really differently, and companies understand that really differently. So there's companies that really think about digital transformation as how do they move from a more manual processes to really sort of digitization of those processes, all the way up to companies that are thinking about how can they use technology in new and different ways to grow a whole new line of business, to hopefully grow revenue with hopefully then they can open up new jobs. And what we really hope is that because of some of these other initiatives, they'll be able to hire locally. There will be people with the skills locally for these new jobs.
Yeah. And then Jesse, what stood out to you about some of the communities you visited?
Yeah, it's been so fun to go and meet so many people. One of my favorite stories was when we went to Indianapolis with Grow with Google. We met a teacher who had driven 2 hours from a rural town in Indiana to come to the Grow with Google event. She'd heard about it, and she was already using Applied Digital Skills, that program, that curriculum that I was talking about earlier. And she stood at the Applied Digital Skills table in the Expo Center and was fielding questions and talking to other teachers. And at one point, she just jumped behind the table and just basically stayed there all day, offering advice and tips. And then I think at one point, we sort of brought her up on stage during one of the workshops. But it was amazing. Like, these programs are getting traction, and people are excited to talk about them and share with them. Another interesting example is in Pittsburgh. We come at the Grow with Google event, but that's really just the beginning of our engagement in these cities. And in Pittsburgh, we've recently completed the Google Impact Challenge, where we put out a call to the community to say, bring us your innovative ideas for generating economic opportunity, and we'll fund them. And so we picked four finalists who are going to get $50,000 grants from Google.org, and then the community gets to vote on of those 4, which one gets an additional $50,000. And the ideas that are coming in are so amazing and so inspiring. I think that we're just seeing creativity and ingenuity and energy in these places.
So now, given that these programs are pretty new, how are you guys looking to measure progress that's made, how successful your efforts are in really helping communities and job seekers prepare for the digital economy?
Yeah, we've talked a lot about how we're going to measure impact, and because this is a new initiative, I would say for the first year we'll be measuring activity. So if you think about digital skills and computer science education, we will be more focused on how many high schools have we been able to bring TEALS to. If you take something like rural broadband, how many people have we been able to bring broadband access to? And likewise for digital transformation, how many companies have we been able to work with? But I would say after about a year, we want to quickly pivot and get a lot crisper with our KPIs. So, for digital skills and computer science education, it might be how many kids had access to computer science education, but then how many went on to do the AP course?
Right.
And how did that kind of change their trajectory and what they studied and what opportunities opened up for them? If you think about broadband, it's how many people might now have access to broadband, but what did they do with it? How were they able to take advantage of educational opportunities or healthcare opportunities? And then for digital transformation, it's if a company's gone through a digital transformation effort, have they been able to grow their business, and have they been able to open up more jobs, and have they been able to hire those jobs locally?
Yeah.
We're thinking about it in the same way. Right now we want to make sure that we're getting these programs and products into the hands of as many people as possible. And we're laying the sort of these output metrics, activity metrics that Kate mentioned, but we're laying the groundwork are now in an IT job. How many of the folks that take applied digital skills are feeling more confident in technology? How many small businesses are actually growing because they got online? So there's a whole range of impact metrics that we're really focused on.
And then the last question for you guys before we get to a few questions. We have people here who represent communities all over the U.S. Is there any way they can get involved with your programs?
Absolutely. I mean, initially we're very, very focused on these 6 states and these particular regions in the 6 states. So if anybody here is we're in Washington, Wyoming, Wisconsin, North Dakota, Texas, and I'm missing one, Wisconsin. Did I say Wisconsin? So I'll be around for the rest of this conference if anybody would like to talk further.
Yeah, we'd love to talk to anyone. I would love to talk to you about Grow with Google. All of our Grow with Google programs are on google.com/grow. They're all there. They're all free, so you can go and explore. And then we obviously are very interested in bringing this Grow with Google tour to more communities across the country over the course of the next year. So we'd love to talk to you about coming to your town.
Yeah. So I got the cutoff signal for Matt. So